Hey there, I'm Tracy Spears, speaker, author, coach, co-founder of Exceptional Leaders Lab, and your host for Shift Out Loud. My guest today is Dana Arnett. She is the co-founder and CEO of Los Angeles-based multicultural marketing and advertising company named Wicked Bionic, which we're going to talk about how you got that name. Dana has had a few critical shifts in her life and career after working in the entertainment industry for over 30 years, delivering over 6,000 television shows. Oh my gosh. To diverse audiences worldwide. In 2013, Dana stepped down from a big-time, high-paying VP role and left the industry for good. And we're definitely going to ask her why she did that. At 53, she opened Wicked Bionic, never even thinking about owning her own business. That's a shift we definitely have to hear about. And here's the best part. Dana's always wanted people to feel included in her agency's work and in her personal life since she was a child. She has been on a quest to deepen her understanding of today's diversity and inclusion's best practices and recently graduated from Cornell University's Diversity and Inclusion Certification Program in 2021. She uses her knowledge to assist clients in authentically reaching underrepresented communities. She is also dedicated to making college a reality in under-resourced communities by serving on the board of Fulfillment Fund, a 40-year nonprofit in Southern California. Now, Dana measures success by the number of lives changed through knowledge sharing, listening, providing access, and actively cheerleading friends, colleagues, clients, and communities. Oh my gosh.
Like you, Tracy.
Listen, I have had this front row seat to you. Oh, I need to bring you in. So here's my guest today, Dana Arnett. Come on in.
Hey, Tracy. Oh my gosh. So good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I've been asking all of the guests to tell us a little bit about where you are located because, I want people to feel like they are sitting on a front porch with us, listening in on, a conversation about all the things that matter. And so tell us where you are.
Sure. I'm in Los Angeles. For those of people that know UCLA, famous UCLA, my office right now, and it is in Westwood, California. I live fortunate to live by the ocean in a small place called Marina Del Rey, California. So basically, I'm a Southern California girl.
Always, right?
Always born and raised here.
Yeah. Were you born and raised in Marina Del Rey?
No, I was born and raised in Inglewood, which then the Watts riots happened, and we moved to. My father started making a little bit of money, so we moved to a nicer area. And yes, I've always been in this area on the west side.
Oh my gosh, you think so I don't even think you'll ever. You're like one of the few people I think you will never leave that place. Is that true?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a shift. Is the what's the future going to be, which is a lake house in New Hampshire. So that could be the retirement of a 50-50, never leave 100%, right?
I got you. Well, good, because that'll be two great places for us to visit. So
Yeah, 100%. Can't wait to get to Tulsa.
That's yeah, I know. You've got to get here. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing tech stuff happening in Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way. I think it
Really?
would blow your mind. Yes. And I would love to tell you all about it, and I will, but let's talk about you instead of the city of Tulsa right now. So thank you for being a guest. I want to start with your current organization, Wicked Bionic. It's got to be the most logical question. How did you get the name? I'm sure everybody asks you that, but tell me more.
They do. And it's real, I'll tell you, unexpectedly fun is that we do a lot of government contracting work, and people in the city of Los Angeles, different agencies will say they will remember Wicked Bionic, not necessarily my name, because it's so unusual, and ultimately, right, you want to brand yourself with something unique. But literally, my business partner, Carlos Sapeni, and I were sitting down and we're Googling words trying to name our company 8 years ago, right? We're just Googling, right? Seeing what URLs would come up and were available. And then we couldn't get anything that we wanted. And I said, Suzanne, who's my partner, is from New England. And New England, they say wicked everything, right? So I'm like, what do you think about wicked? And he's like, it's kind of good. What else? And I said, well, I love the bionic woman and the $6 million man from the 70s growing up. You know them. And so it became Wicked Bionic. And that's just been a gift. It's been super fun to have.
I love that. I remember meeting you and I said something was wicked and your head snapped around. You're like, why are you saying that? Do you remember that? You're like, are you from New England? And I'm like, no, I'm actually from Tulsa.
They say it elsewhere. Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew? Yeah. Suzanne thinks that's just her part of the country, but it's not.
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
So, and when I was reading, your bio, I mean, I obviously have had this amazing front row seat to watch you make this transition a bit. You and I are not day-to-day friends. I met you from afar. I've watched you from afar. However, I feel so connected to what you're doing and you. And it's just been a real joy to watch you kind of, I remember kind of in the beginning, I don't know where you were in your journey when we first met, but you were already on your way and had a
Yes.
lot of great things going on. But let's go back to why. That was a huge shift. You had this big time job and then
Mhm.
you transition out of that to go work for yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what in the world you were thinking.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking, get out from where I was, I had I had always, when I was a kid, my aunt was a script supervisor on Gilligan's Island. And so when I was small, and it was that great, when
That's
I was
great.
small, I have a picture of me. I think I was like 5 or 6 in this little white dress and this bouffant hairdo standing at the lagoon. Right.
What?
And I know it's crazy. And I have a picture of me with the huts behind me and my aunt with her script with all the huts and Mrs. Howell and everybody behind her. And I don't know if that's what started wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but that's all I ever wanted to do. And so I had a wonderful 30-year career. I worked in post-production, that's why we said at the beginning, delivering all these television shows. But what was happening, I've always been someone, I think that's maybe a little bit naive, Tracy, about, I've just always been a good worker and I've gotten promoted because I've been a good worker over the years. But I never saw race or gender or things that maybe other people might have experienced. I didn't think I was experiencing them until I was in this last job for 10 years. And I was the only female department head. It was run by, white males who didn't support me or the department. So I had fantastic people working with me on our team, 120 people. We were singing and it was great. And I was making a lot of money. But there were some really shaming and embarrassing and oh, traumatic, I would say in hindsight, things that were being done to me because they didn't want me there. And at a certain point, because I wouldn't do the kinds of deals that they wanted to make, which were not ethically right for me. So anyhow, I was just making that in its the most most broad terms. But what happened was I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't. And I'd gone as far as I would rise in that television career as a VP. There was nowhere really else to go. I didn't want to make a lateral move. And and so I quit, and I quit pretty quickly. And it took me, I will say, a year where I had this PTSD. I didn't realize how bad it was. When you're in it, you're just tolerating,
Yes.
managing it, right? But in this man's world, the men started to make more money. I started to make less until there was, I made $100,000 less than I had made them when I started. So there were things that I started to realize as a human,
Wow.
right? I know it's crazy, but I said, I was going to take a year off. I play tennis on a Tuesday at 11 because whoever does that, right? When you're a working person since
That's right.
17, right? And I'm like, I'm just going to go play and see what life is like. And, but I had a lot of residual about that. And so then when I met my business partner, Carlos, who you know and love, Carlos and I was volunteering on a political campaign. And I was taking that year off and I was just chilling out and we met each other and we just fell in love with each other's work ethic. And he came from NBC and he said, I do marketing. I'm like, okay. He says, do you want to rebrand TV Guide with me? And I'm like, I don't know what the word rebrand means, but okay, sure. You're right. Whatever. He's like, it's 3 months. I'm like, I can do 3 months. I'm like, okay. He goes, it's entertainment. You'll be fine. And, and I was fine. And we did
Sure.
that and we had lunch right afterwards. And he looked at me and I looked at him. I said, I never want another boss again. He goes, me neither. And that's how we
Wow.
found Wicked Bionic in 2015. So
Oh my gosh. So for the viewer or for the listeners and viewers, Carlos looks okay. He's not going to like this, but he reminds me when I met him of Robert Downey Jr. and who else? Who's his doppelganger? Who or
oh,
some
it's who he looks like is Jon Snow. He has a Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. He has a Jon
sure.
Snow because he was him for Halloween. So I have that vision because Jon Snow's very beautiful.
Well, he is wicked smart and just gorgeous and so delightful and lovely. You chose well. Both of you did for sure with each
Such a
other.
good man. I could,
Yeah.
we think of ourselves now all these years later as brother sister. We
Yep.
argue like brother sister. But we have such a respect for the parts of the business that each other does so well, right? And we always make decisions when things are tough. We come back to our moral compass is the same, and so
Mm.
we always are able to act based upon that moral compass that is always right and truthful and honest. Thank God,
I love that. Do you think that like, if you look back and say, there are some things in this transition that I did really, really well, picking the right partner has to be number one, probably? What do you think? What are some of the things on the list when you look back? Because there's a lot of people listening that have a side hustle, or a lot
Yeah.
of people listening that are saying, I'm definitely ready to not work for anyone else. What would be some of those things that you have kind of learned?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's just been so long. I had to go back and get some bits of an education, to kind of figure this all out. But, I think the biggest thing involved in a lot of business groups. Some of them, Pinnacle Global Network, and a lot of women owned businesses, organizations. And what I found is that, first of all, I can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. That is the biggest thing. The first year in business, I was like, I don't know what I don't know. So
Yes.
I think it's surrounding yourself, especially if you haven't started a business yet, really talking to people, because a business is started based upon where there's a gap in the world. Like, your leadership is so necessary because so many people need to be taught leadership. That's why I think you flourish so much, Tracy, because it's
Yeah.
just incredible what you bring to it, and it's necessary. And so finding where the gap is that you can fill as a business owner, right? And we knew like this multicultural thing was going to be something for us in the things that we focus on, which I can tell you about later. But I think finding what it is your passion as well. You have to discover something that like makes you want to get up in the morning if you're going to do it for yourself. Because as you know, there's a lot of hurdles. There's a
Yeah.
lot of technical hurdles, right?
Yep. Well,
And you
and
don't want to be alone.
listen, as I was watching you, you watched me in the beginning of our transition from
Sure
corporate
did.
America to Exceptional Leaders Lab, and it was clunky in the beginning. I met you right in the very beginning of us
Yes.
trying to figure that out, and I would agree with you finding the right partner. But I'll tell you one of the things that has been the big gift. There's been many things, and I know you and Carlos have this. You kind of mentioned it, like Wally and I can just go at it, and like. And I didn't know that in the beginning of this. I know this now. And like at
Yeah.
the end, we're gonna be fine. Like
Right.
we definitely know that we're arguing ideas and not each other,
Mm,
and we have like a tiebreaker that if it is, if it's something that's going to be audience ready, he'll always say, you win the tiebreaker. If it's something that is, more stylistic for the content development, he's going to win the tiebreaker. Right. So
I see.
just
Nice.
having that kind of those rules of engagement have been super valuable as well. And the passion, you're right. We work very, very hard. And,
Yes,
what
I know
people
you do.
well, I mean, all of us, like,
Yes.
for
Well, and
sure.
Tracy, I don't you think though, because we're by far, I realize when you're talking, like, yes, we both are fortunate we have partners, because I know so many people that are the solopreneurs in their business. They don't have people to bounce it off that are that are colleagues at the same level. And I always feel so blessed because I have somebody that thinks completely differently than I do.
That's right.
It's really helpful to not be doing this on my own as the CEO.
Yeah. And most people won't seek that person that has a different opinion. But as you and
No.
I know, we have two very opposite partners. And thank goodness, right? Can you
Thank
imagine if you
goodness.
hired somebody like you? And I mean, if I hired somebody like me, I don't know, we wouldn't be getting much done.
No, I don't know if we get anywhere. We wouldn't necessarily make as good of decisions, I think, right?
That's right. Well, I do
So,
I do a lot of CEO coaching. The pandemic kind of sent me into that world a little bit. I was not on as many stages. And one of the conversations I'm in often when somebody does, take a side hustle and then they go into something else, this conversation comes up. When should I hire my first person? What are some of and I always say sooner than you want to, right?
yeah.
Like you have to start to delegate some of those administrative things because that takes up so much creative energy. And
Right.
most people say, no, I can do it all. But what suffers in that is the creative piece. You have a pretty good team now, yes?
I do. Yes, we have 6 people, and then we have our contracted workers, which is awesome. But I'll tell you, you have made a really good point, Tracy, because it is so true about one of the tools I learned early on was that I had to, after you kind of get going, is make a list of all the things that I do every day for a week. Make a list, everything that I do every day. And then take a look the next week at that list and what can I offer to somebody else? What do I have? I was filling out a PDF before you and I got on, and I'm like, why am I filling out this PDF? Like, I have so many other things to do. So what's the highest and best use of my time? right?
Right.
And being able to assess that. And then that's when you get even just an admin, a lower level person that can do all the tasks that, are not the highest and best use.
Yeah, and that person pays for themselves 10 times over. So it's not even an
Absolutely.
expense. It's an
Mm-mm.
opportunity cost, as you know, with when you don't hire that person, you're actually losing money. You
Yeah.
don't see it because it doesn't come off the P&L, but you're losing money by not being creative. What was the big shift for you and Carlos when you were like, okay, now things we're starting to get our stride? What was something that happened?
I can tell you something that I think was really where, when we started, we knew we were an advertising and marketing agency, right? We did everything. We could do everything. We did everything. But I didn't have a passion for it. I didn't start when I was 53. I didn't have a passion for it. I just was like, what's the revenue? What's the next thing that's going to get me to retirement? And let's run this business that I didn't know how to run. But I'll tell you what happened. It's a great little story. The Los Angeles Public Library is a client of ours for now. We're going into our 6th year under contract with them. And in the beginning, they had a campaign called the New Americans about free citizenship services, like to gain your citizenship through the library. And they wanted to get the word out. Like incredible, right? With all the immigration issues going on, free services, the lawyers, everything except the taking the test. And so we were tasked with getting the word out. So we were advertising on, we still are, buses and billboards and, Facebook and Google and everything you can imagine, radio. And it was going really, really well. We reached like 7.7 million people in 24 months. Like it was crazy. And after the first year, the library invited us to the swearing in ceremony. And let me tell you, I have pictures. Let me tell you,
Mm.
Carlos and I stood there. Oh, this little Hispanic girl holding a flag. Like it really chokes me up. And men, women, and children were getting up on that stage. It was the most incredible. And Carlos and I looked at each other. We had tears in our eyes. And we said, we know what we're supposed to be doing. And that's when
Yes.
this world of multicultural, like speaking to people, creating meaningful dialogue, reaching them and showing them the things that we can provide that they need. You know what I mean? So that's where the shift changed in us. Where I'm like, I found it. It took 2 years, but I'm like, I found it. And now that's what drives our business for sure.
Oh my gosh, no way you don't feel so much, pride in that moment,
Oh my God, like a
right?
little bit of driving
Yeah.
people to go have that experience. And I will tell you the best news. Carlos, I was from Venezuela, and he got his citizenship as a result through the library's program.
What?
Watched him get it during COVID. I mean,
Oh
it's so
my
incredible.
god.
So, right? So
Yeah.
life,
Oh,
that's meaningful.
friend, that's something. You've mentioned the multicultural a couple of times. You know I am incredibly passionate about that
And
as
now you
well.
are.
So I'm just gonna open it up. I don't even know what question to ask you about that other than to say, "Tell me more about that."
Well, I'll tell you, I love oh, God, there's so many things. And, I try not to censor myself around this because I just try to talk very straightforward about it. I have seen as a privileged white woman, the ability, the interest and the ability that I am talking about multicultural, right? A lot it's really came out of the work that we do, right? But that thing of people feeling included. But what's interesting is when I speak about something, I don't necessarily like it, seem to listen more than if an African American person speaks about something that maybe an initiative or something. So this kind of feeling about advocacy made sense to me, standing in line at the market and somebody in line, a white man yelling at somebody behind a counter to hurry up and it's inappropriate. Like I started to take these little stands because what I realized was it's a failure on my part internally if I don't just open my mouth, right? If I
Mm,
don't just open my mouth, I can not like it. But if I don't open my mouth to advocate for somebody else, there's a lot more power if I'm advocating is what I realized. So
yep.
I try to lend that. But where I learned that was seeing, when any of the work we do, in marketing, it's no longer you just do what we call whitewash marketing, right? There's a couple and here's the ad and here's the language and you just throw it up in English and it's done. Everything has to be done with that sensitivity, those cultural sensitivities, whether it's LGBTQ advertising or African Americans or Hispanic or Koreans or Chinese, in language, understanding who they are culturally so that you can speak to that. So they don't go, oh yeah, this, Coca-Cola just wants to get our business. No, they actually understand our community. So that's what's kind of cool. There's a great story. Kmart years ago, they have, lots of money when Kmart was before they went out. You have Kmart's there?
I I I don't think we do
Oh,
anymore.
maybe, I think they're gone, but you remember them, right? They
Of
were on, it was in
course.
your area, right? So
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
like the
yeah.
target of the day, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shitty target, but,
Yeah.
sorry.
Exactly.
But anyhow, so they did a campaign and they were so excited about it. You could see it because it was this beautiful outdoor patio. They're selling patio furniture, and it was for geared to yoga moms, right? Moms that really needed it. It's beautiful greens and well, what they failed to realize is that 50% of their customers were Hispanic moms. And what they did was they did an ad, and at the top of the ad it said "Mama Stay," like mama and namaste. Mama Stay, fabulous. To me, it looks great. Guess what? In Spanish, mama stays, mamaste, and it means to go suck it. Liter- Literally to go suck it.
Oh, no.
Oh, you talk about a cultural problem, right? Oh my God. And you can read up all on it. You'll see all the people that talked about it. It was a fail like nobody's business. And Cross and looked at each other when we heard this. We're like, and when Hispanic on staff, or maybe their
Yeah,
marketing aides to check that stuff out. Like that's the stuff that we don't want to offend, right? We want to
yeah.
bring people in. So that's why the multicultural is so awesome to us,
Oh my gosh. Listen, I think there's so many mistakes that are being made. And I love that you said I need to use my voice and be more of an advocate. I was raised in a time where I had a lot of big feelings and thoughts about what was
Me
happening, but
too.
I did not have a voice in a lot of the things that I was experiencing. And I look back on that with a lot of probably shame and a lot of regret, and yet I'm now sitting here going, "Am I doing enough now?" And the answer is always gonna be no, I think.
Always.
But, I especially with everything that's going on in our world, and I am trying to find my voice as well in some of those moments. I had a great teaching moment, with Kuma, Roberts just a little bit ago. We had not today, but a few days ago, we did a podcast, and we were commenting on in the beginning when the George Floyd murder happened. And Leonell Thompson and I have had this conversation too. And it was about in the moment where I decided, oh my gosh, I've got to be better. I've got to use my voice. And, like there were a lot of people that, and I'm not proud of this. I'm saying that I had even more incentive. I should have had all of that long before George
I know.
Floyd. And yet, there I was, doing I was in the marches and all the things. And one of the comments was made, I said I wanted to, I want to help amplify the voices. And I don't remember if it was Leonel or Kuma. It was probably both of them. One of them said, "Oh yeah, no, hand me the mic. Don't amplify my voice. Hand me the mic." And I was like,
Mhm. Wow.
right?
Wow.
I know I have
Yeah,
chills.
I got it too, right up back when
Yeah. And I know it was Leonel
God,
that
that's
said,
so
"And when you go to the Black Lives Matter, don't put selfies of yourself in the march." And I was like,
oh,
"Oh, okay, I got it."
okay, good. Check,
Yeah,
check.
yeah,
And
yeah.
well, and because we are a version of advocating, what do we really know? What do we really know? I love that you got
Right.
that advice.
I
I'll tell you
did.
when I went to high school, I was in an all girls, very fortunate to be able to go to an all girls Catholic high school and private school. And it was obviously white. It was, the early 70s. And then when I went to work in Hollywood right out of high school, I remember feeling so incredibly comfortable because what I felt was a fish out of water there because it didn't look right to me. I didn't know what didn't look right. There was no other ethnicities but white,
Yeah.
and then plus all women. But when I went over the hill, as I say, and started to work in Hollywood, I was like, I didn't know diversity, but I saw the word diversity, but I saw diversity in everything. And I felt so much more at home. It felt so much more normal. And I don't know why that is. I know nothing, none of that stuff was talked about in my household. But for some reason, it's like has been, I think you said such a beautiful thing, because it is true. We felt so many feelings. You and I are so much the same, as young people, but kind of you don't know what you're modeling, what you've seen. You don't know what you're supposed to be, but you know that it doesn't feel right. And I'll tell you, every day now, when I see there's a young Black man that walks around our neighborhood to get some exercise in the morning, and I think he's a little bit autistic, and he walks around, and I think to myself, I don't have to think about what it's like to go out the door every day or
That's
have a
right.
mom that worries. And I'm like, I'm always just like, wow, how lucky I am, but how can I help and always be gracious and always be thankful and always be appreciative and always say hello,
Yes. It is, you and I have, we're students of this because of the work we've chosen to do, and, a work in progress. I watch a
Always.
lot of people tap out of doing the work because they're uncomfortable or because they don't want to make a mistake. And, I'm sure we'll make a mistake in this podcast. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of the mistake. And I love that I have a group of people that will call me and go, yeah, you can't say that. And don't,
How do you learn, right?
I
How
know
do
that,
you learn?
right. But I think being fearless in that is kind of the first step. When somebody says, I do want to do the work. I want to be an advocate. I want to amplify people's voices. I want to be part of some of the change. But I watch well-intentioned people sit on the sidelines because they don't even know what to do.
And they're
So
scared. They're going to be jumped on for not
for
doing
sure.
it right. And that's why I say, I love that we are like-minded and have that kindred spirit about that, where we go, we're trying, at least we're trying, to understand and to participate. Right. And
Yeah.
I think participation is what you're saying is better than no participation. Right.
That's right. That's right. And so when you're thinking, I'm going to go back to Gilligan's Island at some point, but when you keep,
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't go to the island?
I know, like I'm thinking, a little more diversity. I mean, that I mean, like I'm starting to think,
Definitely wasn't super diverse.
no, it wasn't. And of course, everyone probably says you remind them a bit of somebody on Gilligan's Island. No, Marianne.
No, yeah, if I had Marianne Spot. Oh, she's dead. No, I don't know. Yeah, just because I'm small. But wait, I have to tell you something really hilarious.
No,
So the lagoon was actually, and you can Google it, and you can see the map of the lagoon, which is like the drone version of where the lagoon was. It's in a studio on a studio lot in Los Angeles against a wall. Those were just all plants against a fence. And then they built this in cement, and they put a few more plants. That was the lagoon. And Roseanne, remember what a big hit her show was in the beginning? When
Yes.
Roseanne came in, she was shooting at the same CBS lot, and she said, "We need more parking. Pave that thing over." So that there's no more lagoon. So they set up a wishing well that's like this big, and you can there's still the lagoon water in there, right?
That's
Isn't
hilarious.
that funny?
That
Yeah.
is super funny. And listen, I was a super fan, every day. Like, recently, my aunt, we were having a conversation, and there was a little bit of wine involved, but it was about, can you remember the words to the Gilligan's Island song?
Did you do
And
it?
we did, but it was clunky. I'm not going to lie. It was a little clunky. But
Oh, you're
I love
hilarious.
all that trivia stuff. And,
Yeah.
we just were competitive enough to figure it out. The end of the story is about 2 weeks later, I get, it wasn't in the mail, it was dropped off, a paper plate, and she has written out the entire
All
song.
the lyrics?
Yeah. I should have kept that. Yeah,
I can't believe she didn't do a paper boat.
I know. Oh, right? She wasn't very
Right?
creative.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, you could
win.
tell she must have been eating a sandwich like, what are those words? You could just tell it was really like, I don't
Very
think we ever nailed that.
competitive.
She's not going to Google it or look it up. She's old school. She's like, no.
Oh, she's just a brain.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, she's
We should be
wicked
using
smart.
do wicked smart.
I
Awesome.
do miss that not knowing in some of those things,
I know.
right? Like
I know.
now that lasted, I don't know how long, 2 weeks. Now that would last, 35 seconds. Okay. Well, here, let me tell you. Yeah. Hey,
Well,
Siri.
and as somebody who has Siri all the time, as somebody that works with young people, I was looking for Jasmine, who is in there today, and she's 26. She's our an account manager with us, and she just the speed of knowledge and the speed, like we're used to, like, oh, but wait. I just watched the access is so fun to watch because it's just information. Now she's smart enough to know to cross check things, but she accesses information so quickly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, That's how you move. And you don't have to tell somebody, look it up on YouTube. This generation, if they don't know, they don't waste your time. They look it up on YouTube. I mean, it's
I know.
really smart. It's smart. So they're thinking just in a different way than we are.
But I feel like we've got to keep the conversation going. If there's anything else in your quest to help, with the multicultural experience that you are trying to cultivate, and in your work, like, is there anything? Because I think you said there's some places that you are
Oh,
spending
involved
some.
in
Yes,
yes.
tell me more
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, Carlos and I talk a lot about the fact that it's moved from multicultural to cross-cultural now.
Thank
Because
you.
when they did the last sentence, I say multicultural still, but it's just the next concept, because I think when they did the census, and I will not get he's the statistics guy, but a majority of people are cross-cultural. Woman marrying a black man, cross-cultural. So when they have the boxes, white, Hispan, they have to check multiple boxes. And so this cross-cultural feeling, it's this melting pot that we truly are here, but acknowledged in that way. So we might not be able to advertise to, an Indian family. It might be a mixture of us. So we're always having to learn and stay on top of how are things perceived? What traditions are they taking and what are they leaving behind? So that we're
Interesting.
constantly aware of what is next, and that we're still speaking. One day, ultimately, wouldn't it be great if I just had a marketing and advertising agency that did not have to say multicultural, cross-cultural, any culture, African American, Hispanic, anything? We were just
Yes.
advertising because
Yes.
people saw each other as just people. Wouldn't that be the day? Not going to be in my lifetime, but wouldn't that be the day?
Well,
Right?
it would be, and I share the enthusiasm for that with you for
Yeah.
sure. Because
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you see in your business, Tracy, around multicultural, around just people addressing? Because I would think in the corporate environment, you must see a lot.
It's interesting. I see, there's not a lot of middle ground. Like, what I'm experiencing is organizations are either completely immersed in doing the work and trying to create, the psychological safety piece, or they tiptoed in the last couple of years and they've like, oh wow, this is super hard. And so they're
Yeah.
kind of laying in the wings. I think quiet quitting, all the things we're hearing about now. I think there's so many things that the underlying current is, I'm not going to be somewhere that I don't belong. I'm not going to be somewhere that I'm not being valued. And I'm definitely not going to be somewhere that I'm making $100,000 less than my counterpart. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
cheering on this generation and this movement. But my experience has been that leaders are really, you know what, we're doing it. It's the future. Or I think I'd like to ride my career out. And I'm always like, oh,
Yeah.
this is, yeah, yeah,
You could make an impact. Well, and I think that's true. Like, we don't go after business for corporations that, like I said, do a lot of government work, so that's fine. But corporations that are not internally diverse and are having those conversations or having something embedded already, because if they're not doing they don't want to do multicultural marketing on the outside. They don't see
that's
the
right.
value, right?
That's right.
So we just because we just move on until they come along, you
We had
know.
a listen, we had a really big client here locally, and we'd been doing a lot of work with them, and it was meaningful work, deep meaningful
Mhm.
work. And we got a call from the CEO saying we'd like to drop the word equity from the work that we're doing. And we were like, what? You can't
They do
just,
that.
yeah, like, equity is incredibly important. And we, made a couple of swings. That is it, that there's not an understanding of equity. And so, we did, of course, the baseball field, we did everything from the
Right.
graphic of what is equity. It's, not giving everybody the same opportunity, but it's making sure that, everybody has an equitable opportunity. You've seen that, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the little boys looking in, and boys or girls looking in at the baseball field. And so equality is that, you give the same size box to all three of those children so they can look in. But one's taller than the other and the other one's short. And
Mm,
so equity is no, no, no. You give them the box they need so they
right.
can look in on the game. So anyway, so
Love it.
so we did all of that stuff. Anyway, it still ended up being, that we parted ways. And
What was the fear? What was the fear?
I don't, I'm going to tell you what I believe. I believe that there was a low perceived what's the right word? I want to be careful here. I think that it's somebody that just said, I don't experience this, so it's not happening.
A little bit of
And
denial.
well, and here's the other side to that. I watch it and I'm like, if you've never experienced it and you're not open to the experience of other people, you will walk around thinking it's not a problem.
Okay. That's
And
right.
so it is super uncomfortable in the work that we do is to try to say, but let me expose you to that in a way that you can at least understand what other people's experience is. If somebody it won't even enter that conversation, they're going to walk around thinking, I think this is overblown. There's, everybody gets a fair shake, or they'll say silly things like, well, I had it rough too. No, 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 you were white. You didn't have it as rough, right? Like all
Don't
of the
talk about it.
things and the privilege that you and I have. And when people aren't willing to acknowledge that, or when people are thinking, well, gosh, I had it rough too. Man, I think that's what makes
You
some of
have
the work
no
so
idea.
hard. No,
Yeah, you have no idea. And isn't it wherever people protect their position, right? They protect their position
for
in
sure.
every way.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I'm sorry
And,
that happened. That's unfortunate.
well, listen, if I am, I get it. I do get it, but it's just an indication that we have a lot to do. So, what's what are the next shift for you and Carlos? What are you all working on now?
Well, let's see. So, like I said, we go through that's what I'll tell you. I love the city of Los Angeles and I love the county and the state of California because we we got to do a campaign last summer with California Citizens Redistricting Commission, where they were redrawing the lines and they had to write, which matters for our voters, right? And they had to reach people in, low income, different economic and socioeconomic levels within towns and districts. And they had to get the message out to them. And we were doing billboards and buses and radio because you didn't usually do radio in we did 8 languages or something in radio, and I'm getting them to go and look and participate and help draw the lines of their community. And we were able to share what the impact was and why it was necessary. So that was a really successful campaign. So we do a lot of that, like educating the public on why something matters. So we've got a big thing with the American Rescue Plan because California got 985 million, something like that, to help businesses in Los Angeles and people that were struggling during the pandemic or as a result of the pandemic. And so we're up for a very big contract with the county to help really find those communities, find those community leaders and organizations and engage them on what there's money to be spent. And the money's got to be spent by December 2025, I think, or 2024. So like getting that word out, letting people know that we're so lucky, Tracy, because, we seem to get meaningful business that falls right in line. Not, hey, can you advertise the latest influencer or, blah, 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 on Instagram or TikTok. It's really stuff that's impactful. So we get to have this great smile on our face. And we have a team that's diverse as well. And we brainstorm together, right? And we talk about, because we literally cover 6 generations in this company. It's because I'm 61 almost, but I got that one covered. So whatever, but we got 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like we cover all this.
Nice.
And it's just such a beautiful thing because we share so many great ideas that we can actually do better work, but there's
Nice.
so much going on, so many shifts. And I've got, when you're 61, I don't know where you're looking at, but we still like have all this energy about our business. Right. But it's like, what, I have a partner that's really kind of looking at it like, oh, I'd really like to be laying on that canoe and that kayak in that lake soon.
Yeah.
So, right. What's the shift is figuring out what that next thing is going to be in life. We know what it is. Well, boy, is it hard to figure out timing. When is it going to be right to leave? When is it going to be right to not be in Los Angeles full time? When is it all going to be right? Very hard. It's got to be a God thing, I think, more than anything. Than
I
my strength.
I love the idea though of the 50-50, like, it's seasonal, like to transition completely would be hard, but
Sure
get a
would.
little place to go. And then you start going a little bit more often. And then the next thing you
Yes.
know, yeah.
Did you guys do that? You guys do that or no?
We did. We bought a house in Cashiers, North Carolina, and we sold it. And we're heartbroken that we sold it right before the pandemic. We could
Oh,
have been sitting in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains, Smoky Mountains, but it was really hard to travel from there. We end up back there, I think, weirdly in some way.
mm,
So We have a little cabin outside of Tulsa though that we go to every
That's right.
Friday, come home every Sunday. So we do value that kind of getaway time. And I don't think you're ever going to be a camper. I'm not sure. Is that true? Not your
Yeah,
thing.
I'm a luxury hotel girl. My
I got you.
partner's a camper. She can go camp. She can go camp, not shower, do sponge baths for like weeks. But and so everybody knows. So when my partner Suzanne is the best camper, took our 70 something friends, and the three of them went camping, and they had never camped, our friends, ever. They're a little bougie like me, but they did so great. And Suzanne gives them like, it's not like she makes it, but she gave them an experience that like, so Suzanne's a great camper. It's still camping. I still gotta go find a latrine or whatever the hell you call those things. I'm acting like I'm in MASH right now, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, I will always defer to the nice hotel in Italy or the place down the street or
I
wine
got you.
country, Yeah.
We bought, you probably don't know this, we bought a bumper pool and we did it for a couple of years. We did the Grand Canyon and we went up and did all of, Yellowstone and absolutely loved it. But it was not the camping that Suzanne's doing.
You're
We were
a
glad.
luxury RV. I saw that thing on
Yeah,
Facebook.
we were glamping for sure.
Oh, geez, are you still doing it? Or
No,
no?
we just sold it. We sold it to some friends of ours, and I miss it terribly. Rosemary, not so much.
Me
You
and
know,
Rose.
yeah,
That's the only thing. Me and Rose.
yeah.
Okay.
She was really, a trooper about that, and I didn't realize how much of one until we sold it. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of sad. She's like, I'm glad that's over. I was like, what? What? You didn't love that? She's like, no, I did
No.
not love it.
Oh, did she? But she zipped it for you. That is
Well,
awesome.
Yeah, she tolerate. I knew there were a few comments that let me know she was taking one for the team.
Your dream,
Sure,
honey. That was your dream.
for
I
sure.
love it. I
I
love it.
think the thing that threw over the edge is the F-150 I bought to pull it. Like she was
Oh no,
like,
no. I will say something. I have a Mercedes. That 150 is kind of a dream car for me. The electric one, I
right?
want that. That is we rented it. It is the sexiest truck.
Amazing. Thank you. I just sold it and and now I'm lamenting that I sold it and I sold it to a friend and he loves it. And I saw him the other day. And he's like, seriously, I cannot believe you sold that truck. I go, I know, but I'll buy
What do
another
you,
one.
okay, yeah, I was gonna say
I'm
get the
totally gonna buy
electric
another.
one. The new electric one. They
Have
say
you
that's more
have you been in a
powerful than
Rivian? A Rivian, I think is the name. Have you heard of
no,
that
I've
truck?
seen it. Oh, I have, but what the thing pop out as a barbecue or something, a grill or something?
Well, it's the electric truck that
Yes.
Ford bought some that they're reselling. I'm gonna act like I know all this. I don't. I'm just gonna say
It's
this.
okay.
I got in. So Melissa on our team's husband bought one, and he was gonna, take us for a ride. And I got in the truck, and we're on a road here in Tulsa. And he goes, "Okay." He stops the truck in the middle of the road. And he goes, "Put your head back on the headrest." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "No, just trust me. Put your head back on the headrest." And I go, "Okay." So I lean back. I'm like, "Come on, this guy's being so dramatic about his truck." And he hit the gas. And I don't know if it's 2.5 seconds or what.
It
I don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
But the torque was the most torque I've ever felt at flying anything. It was unbelievable. So you got to you got to try
Really.
Rivian. Yeah. I think that's
I
the
did
name
see
of it.
somebody that had a post on Facebook. They had a picture where like there a barbecue grill or something pulled out of the side of it
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
extra. I'm like, there's an Instacam.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah.
Has
That'll
to
be
have a
fun.
toilet, Tracy. Has
I
to have a toilet.
understand. Listen,
Okay,
I'm
go.
with you. I totally
Whatever.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, we've lost all of our listeners by now, but if you're still with us, and we hope you are, let's do
Oh,
two quick things. You want to
yep.
promote women-owned businesses, how to get
Yes.
certified. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Okay. If you're a woman-owned business, and you want to work with government agencies, certainly, but any type of corporations, large organizations, they have supplier diversity departments, and those people are there to help you get opportunities and apply for opportunities to get business. So if you have the aspirations, you can provide anything from cleaning supplies to marketing to tools to, construction equipment. You want to get certified as a woman-owned business. It's a process of about 3 months. I think their pricing is like $700 over the 3 months, but it's an organization called WEBENC, WBENC.org. And it's Women Business Enterprise National something. I always forget the C committee. And they are a national organization, and they are not only do you get certified, so I have a certification for my business. It's called I'm a small business I'm also a WBE, which is a woman-owned business, women business enterprise. And this organization, once you get certified, you will have people in your area, in your regional areas throughout California, throughout the states, in national, they have conventions, but you will get attached to other women business owners. And it is a camaraderie and a support. You can network amongst each other. You might not be a corporation that you're interested in working with, but you might offer a service from another WBE who has a business. Maybe you have a translation company. Maybe I use translation companies for my business to do what we do. So it's a great way to not be alone, to grow your business, and to become part of a community. So WBENC.org. Fantastic.
Nice. Thank you for that. I'll definitely check
Thank you
that
for
out
asking.
for sure. Of course, of course. How can our listeners find you? What's your social media?
Yeah.
Wickedbionic.com.
Wickedbionic.com for sure. If you want to learn more about our business. And the best way to find me, certainly to connect with me, is via LinkedIn. So it's Dana Arnett. And if you put Dana Arnett, Wicked Bionic, you'll find me. And love to hear from anybody that wants to say hey.
Well, listen, this went way too fast. I still feel like I have some Gilligan's Island follow-up questions.
Oh, I got other TV shows too. I mean, come on.
What was the best TV show that you worked on for you?
I will say for me, The Biggest Loser. I did
It was
12 seasons of The Biggest Loser.
Nice.
Weight loss, seeing people change their lives. That was really, really profound.
There's
it's incredible.
A friend of mine, Mimi Brown, was on The Biggest Loser.
She was.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you remember her. She's going to be on the podcast soon. She's amazing. She had a really good experience.
Oh,
there
good
as well. So yeah,
it's really. I mean, when you see somebody 400 pounds, 450 pounds, and then I would stand backstage on the finale, the live finale, and I'm standing looking at a monitor with somebody, and I'm just getting the sense of this guy next to me. Beautiful slacks, beautiful belt, beautiful tight black shirt like we're wearing. And I looked over and it was a 450-pound guy. And I got so choked up. I was like, we just changed his life.
Yeah.
Changed his life. So that kind of stuff is amazing to me, right? So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, love being with you, Tracy.
Listen, likewise. Let's do it again soon. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you. Congratulations. Go make it happen, man. Shift out loud. That's the way to do it. I love the title. I love the idea. It's just so inspiring. So good for you, Tracy.
Proud of you so much.